We're back here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Brought to you by Modelo, heard exclusively on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. He is Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. Our Big 12 women's basketball insider is Rachel Galligan, who joins us here on the program. Hey, Rachel, good morning.
What's up? Good morning, everybody. I'm happy to be here with you.
Glad to have you on, as always. You're a pro, and last night we saw pro-level basketball from Baylor, who got a win. TCU hung 90 in their win over Houston, and then the other winners were Utah, Kansas, Arizona, Arizona State, and West Virginia. Of the games that were played last night, what's the headline for you?
I don't know. I mean, I think, last night was kind of just if it is possible to have a more mild night in Big 12 women's basketball, I would say that was the case. I think TCU and Baylor bouncing back were important. TCU obviously had lost to Texas Tech over the weekend, and I think they made a pretty big statement coming out and, doubling Houston's score 90-45. So I felt like that was a really big win. And I mean, for West Virginia to go up to Boulder and beat Colorado, that was their first conference loss at home. So I think it's always a tough place for people to play at. And West Virginia is a team that continues to kind of slowly earn really, really quality wins and work their way up into the rankings. And so there wasn't really any crazy upsets last night, if you will. But I would say just the bounce back of, the ranked teams, TCU, Baylor, West Virginia, was the storyline.
Yeah, and who do you think is the best team in the Big 12 right now?
That's a great question. I think just based on the standings, you have TCU and Baylor who are sitting at 9-2. West Virginia is really climbing, right up there. They're at 9-3, a game back, along with Texas Tech. They've only lost 3 as well. So I think right now it's got to be between TCU and Baylor. I probably would give the nod, recency bias a little bit, from TCU and basically what they did last night. I think their loss to Texas Tech was, I don't think it was necessarily shocking for me because I call Texas Tech games and I'm in Lubbock all the time, so I see how tough the Lady Raiders are. But I just think from an offensive and a defensive production standpoint, TCU has the most weapons when we're talking about the top 3.
Rachel, when it comes to West Virginia and Texas Tech, and the Big 12 standings are kind of rounding into form with TCU and Baylor at 9-2, and then West Virginia at 9-3, and Texas Tech at 8-3. Is there a gap between those top 4 and everybody else, with Arizona State picking up a really nice win against Oklahoma State last night, or is it more even than that?
I think there's probably a little bit of a gap once you get past Texas Tech. Had Oklahoma State not lost last night, I probably would have them in that category as well. They're still a team I'm kind of trying to figure out in some ways. 6-4 in their last 10 games. I think Utah has been a team that, at any given night they can earn themselves a ranked win. They're a team that can cause upsets. They offensively they're really tough. So you kind of have them in tiers, if you will, and I would say that TCU, Baylor, West Virginia, Texas Tech are really at the top, and then you have that second tier, Oklahoma State, Utah, Arizona State, Iowa State right now.
We were talking to the break, Rach, about Julia Davis. I mean, what Brandon Schneider's done in terms of recruiting has been tremendous with Samaya Nichols and Julia Davis. I mean, they put together some really good classes from a recruiting standpoint, but Kansas is 14-10? They're 12th in the Big 12. So, I mean, how do you sort of contrast Samaya Nichols and Julia Davis being as good as they've been with the reality that this is not a tournament team?
Yeah, I mean, Kansas is an interesting one for me. I was really high on this team coming into this year. I felt like last year was kind of their slip-up year, if you will, just from a depth standpoint, size and the interior standpoint. But, like, the recruiting, like you said, it's hard, to think about the type of talent that this team is bringing in, but it's not necessarily always converting to wins. So I'm with you on that. I think this is a really talented team. Samaya Nichols is one of the most dynamic point guards in the country with her ability to get to the free throw line. And, she's so strong, leads the nation in free throw attempts and makes. And then when you add a player like a Julia Davis, who is now the 5-time Big 12 Freshman of the Week.
Wow.
I mean, I think part of it, Davis missed a handful of games. So how much does that really make a difference in the earlier portion of the season? And when I was looking at some of the numbers last night, I found a really interesting stat. Eight of Kansas's 10 losses have come within single digits. 5 of them were 3 points or less. A portion of those losses happened while Davis was out. And so you do kind of wonder, okay, like if Davis is healthy, if they're maybe a little bit older or maybe, have a little more depth, or there are a couple more wins that they steal. So, I mean, it is. I'm sure it's frustrating for the fans. I'm sure it's frustrating for the team. I mean, this is a team with a ton of talent. They've obviously recruited exceptionally well, a top 10 recruiting class in the nation. You have Julia Davis, who's been phenomenal. And I even think you've got a great supporting cast of players who are amazing. I mean, Elle Evans is shooting like 50% from the three-point line. So it's really interesting. I mean, but, you kind of wonder, is this a team, now that we're in February, that can string together some wins? I was listening to Brenda Van Langen on the call last night, and that's kind of what she was talking about. Like, maybe this is that type of win. I mean, to beat BYU is a good team. To beat BYU and to do so relatively convincingly, 81-60, and you got the momentum with Davis and Samaya Nichols. If she can stay healthy, she's really tweaked her ankle quite a bit. Is this a team that can kind of go on a little bit of a run here in February and into March potentially? I think they have that type of potential, especially when you look at just how close a lot of their losses have been.
Julia Davis is probably not getting the credit she deserves in terms of what she's doing on a night in and night out basis. Can you explain her game to us? I mean, we can see the numbers and watch the highlights, but like, what's the comp and how does she play?
I just think she's a really advanced, not a back to the basket post player, but she's got a lot of great length and she does a lot of her work around the interior. Great footwork in the paint. They do a great job of getting her in position to score, whether it's, she'll do her work before the ball comes in. And so she's working, and I can see it because I was this very similar type of player. Not as good, but I played very similarly to Julia Davis. She's not going to be a three-point perimeter threat, but just really highly efficient around the basket and being able to finish around the rim and use her length, use her footwork, play with her back to the basket, looking for lob opportunities, dump down opportunities. So most of her production, I would say, is coming around, right around the rim, outside of maybe 10, 12 feet. But she's just a nightmare because of her length and her athleticism down there. She's a really difficult matchup. And again, has an advanced knowledge of just positioning. Like, great post players, great forwards who score around the rim, do their work before the ball comes in. And I think for a freshman to be as advanced as Davis is has been the most impressive thing for me.
How many bids do you think the Big 12 will end up with?
What do you mean? Like, how many bids?
Bids to the
bids.
tournament.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
No worries.
Kind of looking at the bracketologies, I think it'll end up being, I'm hoping it's closer to 9. It's hard, right? Because, you're looking at West Virginia, who, you want them to host, but then you needed Colorado to get that win to kind of help their resume. I think Arizona State, continues to beef up their resume, earning another Quad 1 win. And so, I don't know. I feel like at this point, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm hoping 8. Or I'm hoping 9. I think for sure 8.
8. That'd be a good number for the Big 12. When you look at the slate for this weekend in the conference, and, Baylor and TCU, they still play 2 more times the rest of the way. And there's other great matchups like that. But this weekend, Oklahoma State's back at home. Arizona State plays at Baylor. Texas Tech plays at Houston. Iowa State plays at Utah. What's the marquee matchup in the league?
I would say Iowa State in Salt Lake playing Utah. That's a really interesting one. Again, I think Iowa State obviously started out hot, one of the best teams in the Big 12. Second in the preseason polls, ranked in the top 10, I think, at one point, maybe top 12. Lost 5 games in a row, and everyone's like, oh, the sky's falling, without really understanding the fact losing Addie Brown's like losing an All-American.
Yeah.
And so they've gotten, healthy to some degree. They've gotten starter back. Addie Brown is still out, but, you've got Jada Williams, Audie Crooks, other supporting roles around those two that are starting to step in to their role. And they're actually on the longest winning streak in the Big 12 right now. They've won 4 in a row.
Wow.
So I think that's a big test going out to Salt Lake, taking on a really good Utah team, and obviously a big opportunity for Utah too to get a quality win. I think you said it, Arizona State at Baylor. Baylor, they were riding an 8-game win streak, then they took the loss. And I just think the jury's out at times with this team. How good can they actually be? Losing to West Virginia, I was a little bit surprised. I thought that they would be able to handle that game. And so Arizona State, I mean, that's Molly Miller in her first year. I mean, unbelievable. I know, started the season hot, won 19 games or whatever it was in a row, and then you get into conference play, and obviously everybody's beating each other up in the Big 12, but that is a disciplined team. They're a team that, even though they're new, they're veteran, and they're so good defensively. So I expect Arizona State at Baylor to be a really good defensive chess match. That'll be a fun one to watch.
Texas Tech, it's such a good start, the undefeated start. Have they played their best basketball at this point, do you think, already?
It's a good question. I'm going to say no. I don't think they have, because of that win over TCU over the weekend. You kind of wondered, okay, are they flailing a little bit? They lost to Iowa State, which that was the best I had seen Iowa State play all season long. I was able to call that game, and things really clicked for the Cyclones, especially after a lot of adversity. And so I think Texas Tech has gone through kind of their rough patch, right? They lost to Kansas State. They go on the road. They lose to BYU, again, who's a good team. They get a big win, respond with a big win over Utah. Then they lose to Iowa State. So they've lost 3 of 4 at that point. You're going to hit those types of portions of the season. Every team is going to hit adversity. It's really about how you handle it. And what I'm impressed with about Texas Tech is the maturity of this team. You have so many veteran players. This is like one of the second. TCU is the oldest team in the country, and at the Power 4 level, Texas Tech's the second oldest. And so then they go and they make a great statement. They're able to knock off TCU, in a game where they just really frustrated TCU in a way that I haven't seen anybody else do all season long. And I think what Texas Tech does defensively travels. I think it's consistent. This is a team that has stayed really fairly level-headed, even through the bumps and the hardships through the course of the season. And so I really think that they could continue to amp it up another level. And when I say another level, offensively, I think their offensive production could take another jump with their ability to knock down shots. Like, they're winning. They beat TCU, and they didn't play great offensively in a lot of ways. And so they're tough. They're old. They're veteran. Bailey Mopper is a phenomenal leader. And this team is incredibly bought in and close with one another. And so I think that they've got a lot of resiliency to weather the adversity of a season.
Top 25 team. Awesome stuff. Rachel Galligan, our women's basketball analyst and insider for the Big 12, joining us here on Big 12 Today. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you, guys. Stay
Thanks,
warm.
Rich. Yeah, thank you. You too.
Rachel Galligan with us each week here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio and streaming on your screen on the Big 12 Fast Channel, Big 12 Studios. We wrap it up next with the final whistle. He's Ari, I'm James here on Big 12 Radio, heard on TuneIn.